Welcome to my channel, The Human Frontier. I was not supposed to be anywhere near a prophecy. I was a systems engineer, third-class civilian contractor attached to the Terran diplomatic mission on the world of Vealoria. My responsibilities included maintaining translation grids, repairing atmospheric regulators, and making sure the visiting human delegation didn't accidentally suffocate inside alien architecture. Heroic destiny was not in my job description. Yet somehow, I ended up standing in the center of a royal hall while the most feared sorceress in the Vealorian Empire pointed directly at me and declared that I would one day marry their queen. And the worst part? She didn't look uncertain. Vealoria was unlike any world I had ever seen. Its cities were built from dark stone that seemed to drink in starlight. Towering spires curved upward like frozen waves, etched with glowing runes that pulsed faintly at night. The Vealorians called it arcane resonance, a blend of advanced quantum manipulation and what they insisted on calling magic. Humans called it extremely advanced science we didn't yet understand. The summit itself had been tense. The Vealorian Empire was ancient and powerful, ruled by a young queen who had inherited the throne only 3 years earlier after her mother's sudden death. Rumors described her as brilliant but cautious, someone who trusted very few outside her inner circle. That circle included one person everyone feared: High Sorceress Marin. The first time I saw the sorceress, she was standing beside the throne, draped in flowing silver robes threaded with faintly glowing patterns. Her eyes were pale violet, unsettlingly bright, and when she looked at someone, it felt as though she was reading more than their surface thoughts. The queen sat beside her, composed, regal, but visibly weary from weeks of negotiations. I stood near the back wall with other technical staff, monitoring the translation field. I had no reason to be noticed until the sorceress stepped forward. "The stars shift," Marin said, her voice echoing unnaturally through the hall. "The threads of future and past tighten around this alliance." The Vealorian nobles grew quiet. Humans shifted uncomfortably. Prophecies were not part of our diplomatic strategy. Marin raised one hand, closing her eyes briefly as the runes along the chamber walls began to glow brighter. Then she opened them and pointed directly at me. "He is the queen's future husband." For a moment, I thought she must be pointing at someone behind me. I glanced over my shoulder. There was no one there. Every head in the chamber slowly turned toward me. Even the translation drones seemed to hesitate before rendering the words into Terran standard. The queen herself stared at me, startled. "I believe," one of the human ambassadors began cautiously, "there has been some misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding," Marin interrupted calmly. "The convergence is clear." I raised both hands instinctively. "With respect, I'm just an engineer." The nobles erupted into murmurs. Some looked outraged, others amused. A few studied me with cold calculation. The queen lifted her hand for silence. "High Sorceress," she said carefully, "prophecies have been misinterpreted before." Marin did not waver. "Not this one." After the assembly adjourned in controlled chaos, I expected to be escorted directly back to our ship. Instead, I was summoned privately to the inner palace. The queen stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city when I was brought before her. Without the grand hall and ceremonial regalia, she looked younger, still dignified, but no longer distant. "I apologize," she said before I could speak. "You did not ask to be drawn into this." "I'd prefer not to be part of any marriage predictions, Your Majesty." A faint smile touched her lips. "Nor would I," she admitted. "My mother ruled for 40 years. I have ruled for 3. I have no intention of surrendering my independence to a stranger because of arcane theatrics." Relief washed through me. "So, we ignore it?" She hesitated. It is not that simple. On Veloria, prophecy was not treated as entertainment. It was woven into their political structure. Historically, major predictions made by a high sorceress had come true with alarming accuracy. Wars, natural disasters, even the previous queen's unexpected death. Marin had never been wrong. If we dismiss her publicly, the queen explained, it undermines centuries of cultural stability. If we accept it blindly, we surrender our autonomy. So, what do we do? I asked. She turned to face me fully. We investigate. Over the next several weeks, I remained on Veloria as part of what was officially described as a cultural compatibility study. Unofficially, it was a way to test the prophecy without committing to it. I was scanned, interviewed, observed. Veilorian scholars analyzed my neural patterns, genetic markers, and psychological profiles. Human scientists reviewed Marin's resonance calculations. Nothing extraordinary appeared. I wasn't secretly royal. I didn't possess rare abilities. I had no hidden lineage connecting me to alien dynasties. The only unusual factor was a strange compatibility between my neurological wave patterns and the Queen's own biosignature, a synchronization that enhanced certain arcane resonance fields when we stood near each other. It is not romantic nonsense, Marin said during one evaluation. It is structural alignment.
Rare.
Powerful. Alignment for what? I asked. For stability. 3 months into the study, Veloria faced a crisis. A neighboring faction challenged the Queen's authority, claiming her rule was weakened by reliance on off-world alliances. Protests erupted in the outer provinces. The political atmosphere grew volatile. During a particularly tense council session, an assassination attempt targeted the Queen using a resonance disruptor, a device designed to destabilize her arcane field. I was standing beside her when it activated. The device released a pulse of distorted energy that should have overwhelmed her biofield instantly. Instead, something unexpected happened. The disruptive energy faltered as it encountered a secondary pattern mine. Our proximity created a stabilizing counter-resonance, diffusing the attack long enough for guards to neutralize the threat. The chamber fell silent in shock. Marin's eyes widened slightly. The convergence strengthens, she whispered. After the attack, public opinion shifted dramatically. What had once seemed like an embarrassing prophecy now looked like strategic foresight. Citizens saw the human engineer who had unintentionally shielded their queen. The political challengers retreated. But the real conversation happened privately. You saved my life, the Queen said later that evening, her voice quieter than usual. I didn't do anything. You stood beside me, she corrected, and the field aligned. Silence stretched between us. Do you believe it now? I asked carefully. She looked toward the distant horizon. I believe something connects us. Whether that connection must become marriage is another matter. Weeks later, the High Council convened to formally address the prophecy. Nobles debated tradition, sovereignty, and the risks of binding their monarch to a human outsider. Marin remained calm throughout. Finally, she spoke. Prophecy is not command. It is potential. The threat exists, but it must be chosen. All eyes turned to the Queen. She stood slowly. I will not marry because I am told to, she said firmly. But I will not ignore the evidence before us. Then she turned to me. Aaron Solace, engineer of Earth, if destiny is truly offering us a path, then it must be walked freely. The entire chamber waited. She extended her hand, not in royal decree, but in invitation. Will you remain at my side, not as prophecy demands, but as partner and equal, and discover whether this future is one we both desire? My heart pounded. This wasn't about spectacle or ancient prediction anymore.
It was about choice.
I will, I said quietly. The formal union did not happen immediately. Months passed. We worked together, balancing diplomacy, science, and governance. We argued. We learned each other's strengths and stubborn flaws. The resonance between us remained steady, stabilizing Veiloria's arcane systems and strengthening interstellar cooperation. Eventually, the question was no longer whether prophecy had been correct. It was whether we wanted it to be. On the day of the joining ceremony, the grand hall was filled not with tension, but with quiet anticipation. Marin stood at the base of the throne, watching calmly as I approached. She did not speak grandly this time. Instead, she met my eyes and gave a small nod, as if to say the future had unfolded exactly as it was meant to. The queen took my hand before the gathered assembly. "This is not the fulfillment of a prediction," she declared. "It is the fulfillment of choice." Years later, historians would debate whether destiny or coincidence had guided that moment in the royal hall when a sorceress first pointed at an unremarkable human engineer. But I knew the truth. Prophecy had opened a door. We had decided to walk through it together. And sometimes, that is all destiny really is, not a command written in the stars, but an invitation waiting for someone brave enough to accept it. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more cinematic science fiction stories.